It's not hard, you're just stupid. That's exactly what a mentor said to me when I was in my first business, working 80 hours a week, feeling stuck and just trying to figure it out. And if you don't know who I am, my name's Jack. I have been in business for 12 years. And in this video, I'm going to share with you the lessons that I wish I knew 12 years ago when I first started out. In terms of the business journey, started as a personal trainer, then opened a gym. Then we started building software for the gyms, spent a couple $100,000 building an app. Then from there, bought a cryotherapy clinic, opened another 6 gyms, so ended up with 7, and then kind of realized, hey, this isn't really what I want to live my life, which I'll kind of get to later in the video. So from there, did a lot of crypto, trading, international stuff, and then really got stuck into high level where I built a software company. And then in the last 3 years, I've really kind of leaned into AI because I see that as the future of business, because if you're not using AI, you're going to be replaced by someone who is. So in terms of the lessons, right, the first one, and I started it off, it's not hard, you're just stupid. And I think that was a really important thing to learn, because everything is a skill issue. If you don't have what you want right now, and when I didn't have what I didn't want, I was paying the ignorance tax of I didn't know how to do the things that I wanted to do to get the result that I wanted. So that's kind of lesson number 1. Everything is a skill issue, and if you're not where you want to be, you need to learn the skills in order to achieve the outcomes of what you want. So now, the second one, and what I learned really early on, is your offer is everything. So in the first business, that was a gym business, we ran a 12-week challenge for 25 to 35-year-old females who'd put on kind of 5 to 10 kilos and wanted their early 20s bodies back. So they'd just gotten their first big girl job and they'd put on a bit of weight, too much wine, too much cheese, and they weren't feeling confident. So all of our messaging, all of our marketing, and the entire offer was based on solving that problem. And if you're in business and you're not crystal clear, like down to that in terms of the emotional and the kind of physiological things that your client is feeling or your target client is feeling, then you are going to find you're not going to get resonance with your offer. And I learned that early on, literally back in 2014, and I've taken that kind of thought process whenever I'm building offers, because your business is the offer and the offer is the claim and the transformation. And I've said it in other videos, but basically you want to take someone from their current situation to their desired situation. That transformation is your offer. Now, the next thing is, like, when you're building your business and you have a problem, 99% of the time, sales is going to solve everything, right? In the business, if there's not enough cash, or there's things going wrong, or you've got the bad clients, or you need money, or whatever it is, having the skill of sales is going to be able to get you to generate the cash, and then you can replace the bad clients. Generate the cash and you can get the new thing that you need. Generate the cash and invest in new talent. So by having that skill of sales and understanding that sales will basically solve everything, that is one of the lessons that we had to learn. And when I learned that lesson, it really kind of changed my perspective on everything. You're only a few sales away from a completely new trajectory in your business. And that kind of leads to the next thing, and that's kind of mastering one acquisition channel, right? And right now, everyone is telling you need to be everywhere all the time, hundreds of pieces of content, where I think that has some level of truth, but if you do everything shit, you won't do a good result. So you're better off focusing on one thing and being world class at that. And again, depending on your level, you're probably between 10 and 50 or $100,000 a month. Have you really nailed that acquisition channel, right? You might be spending $500, $1,000 a day on ads. Well, what would happen if you spent 100 grand a day on ads? Like, how much bigger would your business be? And that's kind of a lesson I learned in the gym business and in the cryotherapy business. We literally just nailed Facebook ads, and we knew our numbers, we knew how much we were going to spend, how much it cost to acquire a client, and we just kept spending that. And then, like, the trick on that is kind of having client financed acquisition. So their first transaction paid for their customer acquisition cost. And that was one of the kind of key lessons that we learned really early on in the cryotherapy business. We had a $49 offer. And people would come in for a treatment for $49, and that would actually cover their acquisition cost. And then, you know, we'd have a 30 to 50% of people would return either on a membership or on a pack. So understanding those numbers in terms of your acquisition, and actually just mastering one acquisition channel. So the inputs, whether it's time or money, which are going to be the 2 inputs, they turn into the outputs that you want, whether it's calls, clients, cash, whatever it is. Having those inputs and mastering those inputs and having that acquisition channel there is going to put your business in a completely different position. And it was the reason that I was able to scale from 1 to 7 gyms and take over a cryotherapy clinic and scale that to $50,000, $60,000 a month. And then further on that, the lesson was that learning this marketing and acquisition system, you can go and apply that to other businesses. And I've worked with businesses in over 30 different industries, from raising money to development projects to solar to treatments to selling shoes online. Whatever it is, having acquisition down pat makes you a skill. And especially with AI coming in and going to be wiping out a bunch of jobs, knowing how to use the AI to actually acquire clients or customers for a business is a skill that will mean you're never broke again. So now the next part, and I kind of touched on that, but it's actually understanding that like data as you scale is your best friend. In the gym business, we had so much data based on how long people would stay, our retention, our check-ins, our ratios, how many times a week were people attending, and we could actually see if they basically fell under 3 times a week, like 3 was the sweet spot, we offered 4 sessions a week. And when people were kind of doing 1 and 2, we generally marked them as a yellow flag, because it meant they weren't bought into the program, bought into the system, and they weren't making it a community, right? In terms of the cryotherapy, we had a lot of data on the gas usage and the different things that we were doing. So in those businesses, we had so much data so we could actually make informed decisions. Because again, a lot of people run their businesses on vibes, and that can be a good strategy, but if you really want to scale and take it to the next level, vibes aren't going to be your best friend, right? So when we're looking at it, like data is your best friend, and now with AI and the ability to actually have like that intelligence layer on your business, it is probably the most profitable thing you can do, besides obviously sell, but have the data to make really good decisions. And as we're scaling the businesses, and as I'm scaling now this AI growth consulting business, is having the data on what it costs, how many emails, how many messages, how much ads, whatever it is that I need to kind of scale in the acquisition, and then having the data on the touch points with clients, our calls, our feedback, all of the things that we do enables me to make way better decisions, and it's going to help you make way better decisions as well. So get your data right and everything else will fall into place. The next thing on that is hiring as a skill. And I think this is kind of multi-level, because we hired people and then we also brought on business partners. And when we're looking at like hiring people, there's a couple of ways at look at hiring. You can hire people for their potential, or you can hire people for their skill level. And I did both. And one of our first hires in the gym, she turned out to be an epic trainer, has gone off now and crushed it, because I could kind of see her potential. Whereas another guy who ended up being our education manager, he was already epic at the start. We offered him something that, again, he couldn't refuse, and he ended up being one of our longest tenured trainers, because he could see the growth potential, and we made him from just a personal trainer to educating all of the 30 odd trainers that we had working for us. So again, they both have a role in the business, and learning that, okay, what are you actually hiring for? And again, Dan Martell, he talks about the replacement ladder, is like, don't hire things to just hire for a role, hire to get things off your plate. So if you haven't checked that out, I'd seriously recommend checking that out. But again, when you're looking at your hiring, it is a skill. Some people interview really well. Some people interview like dog shit. It doesn't really matter. It's like, okay, getting people to do the work, and you can't work with someone until you work with someone. So I'm a big believer, especially in the AI business now, when I'm hiring developers or contractors or whatever, like we do a paid test trial. So if you take anything from this video, understand that hiring is a skill like everything else, which leads back to the top. Everything is a skill issue. But again, if you do want to scale and you do want to remove yourself as the bottleneck so you can kind of take it to the next level, and more importantly, focus on your area of genius, you're going to have to learn that skill of hiring, just like you've had to learn the skill of sales and acquisition and AI or whatever it is that you're doing. And now following on from that, let's talk about business partners. So in the gyms, we had 6 different business partners for each of the locations. So how it worked, we had the kind of head office, I looked after marketing, other business partner looked after finance and legal, and then the business partner ran the operations in the gym. And then the big thing I learned from that is the right business partner, it's not like a 1 + 1 = 2. Or in our case, 2 + 1 = 3, it'd be like 2 + 1 = 10. So the right person will kind of 10x their outcomes, and when they're supported by the right systems, you're gonna just get like explosive growth. And that was how we were able to get our kind of smaller gyms to 40 to 50 to 60K a month with the right person in that. On the flip side of that, as a 20-something-year-old making a couple $100,000 a month, I had a bit of an ego and I thought I could make anyone into a gym owner. You just follow our systems, I'll do the marketing, we have the legal, the programming's all there, anyone can be a gym owner. And I can admit that I was definitely wrong, and my kind of ego got the better of me, and we just had business partners that weren't a great fit, and we were able to transition them out and buy them out and do what we needed to do because they weren't the right fit, right? And I think, again, business partnerships are one of the biggest and sometimes most expensive expensive things you'll do. In previous business partnerships that I've had, I was more involved with him than I was anyone else in my life. So again, I think business partnerships can be great. And since then, I've had a few different business partnerships, and then some of them work out, and then some also come down to their natural kind of completion. And it didn't finish, it ended. And you look at it like a chapter in a book. Sometimes you need to understand what direction and what is it that you actually want, and making sure that you have alignment on that. And then I think the business partners that you can bring on can make things go kind of tenfold. And just kind of the final thing on that is, we had a business partner who is a world-class property expert. He basically does commercial properties, and he actually helped us kind of put together the deals, get the funding, do everything for the commercial properties in the gyms that we owned. And that again was a really big lesson when you've got someone who's a partner who is actually like a specialist or an expert in their field. They can do things that you don't even know exist. So I think the best business partnerships are where you've got two complementary skills. So you're really good at one thing and the partner's really good at the other thing, and then you actually get like a lot more out of it. If you're both kind of doing the same things and you aren't really differentiating whose duties and who does what, I think that's where the problems can occur. And if you're like, one partner's better at something and you're both doing it, well, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Whereas in that property business that we had, our partner, he was an absolute weapon, and he made he gave us that 10x that we wouldn't have got outside of that. So again, partnerships can be really good, but just make sure you're picking the right partners. Now, another thing that I learned is growth is expensive. And again, you're always going to pay, whether it's in time or whether it's in money, but you're always going to pay. And what I mean by growth is expensive is like, you're going to have to sacrifice, whether it's profit, whether it's cash flow, if you do want to have that growth. In the gym business, we had a lot of growth, and we opened 6 locations in 2 years from the funding from our partners and then reinvesting our profits. And then we kept growing into different verticals. So we started buying our own gym equipment from China, labeling it as ourselves. We started buying obviously the buildings, and all of these growths, growth sucks cash. Understanding exactly where you're at, and more importantly, what is it that you actually want, will help you make a better decisions, right? So you'll see all these kind of lessons are interchangeable with each other. And that's the thing on business, like you're learning the skill set of business, and it has so many things that are interconnected. Data and ads and acquisitions and offers, they all kind of work together in order to make an organism. And that's the way that you need to look at the business, is like looking at it as an organism, and what parts of it are constraint and what parts of it can you actually help grow further and remove the bottlenecks to create that growth. And then, we've talked about hiring, and then the next thing on that is obviously culture. And culture is so important, especially as you grow, right? Like if it's just a startup and it's you and someone else, there's not really culture, so to speak. But as things grow and you're actually developing the business, you need culture. So the way I look at it through is having a purpose, mission, and values. And the reason for that is it actually gives everyone alignment on what it is that you're doing. And that was a really big lesson. And from when we went from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 gyms, was like getting everyone aligned in the gyms, in the companies. It couldn't be done by me telling them one-on-one, right? Because there was 7 gyms and I could only be there even if I was in there once. And the big lesson was having that DNA of the company enabled us to kind of grow the culture on what we tolerated, what we stood for, what we did, what we didn't do, and kind of how people acted when no one was looking. So again, as you're growing your company, you need to have a culture. And again, I don't really look at culture as beanbags and ping pong tables and free perks, right? It's like, what are we here to do? What is our purpose? What is the mission that we're actually on? And what are the values that determine our behavior on a day-to-day basis? So again, massive lesson in that, and especially in scaling teams, being able to go, okay, what is it that we're actually doing together, and how do we all get along for the shared mission, right? Next thing that I'll add to that is the worst thing you can say in a company is that we are a family. Because I look at family is unconditional love in the most part. Whereas the way that we want to structure it, and the way I've learned to structure it, is we are a team and we're trying to win a championship, and we need the best people on the team. And if you're not the best person for that role, there's no spot for you on the team. And I think that perspective really helped me shift on, okay, who are we actually hiring for? What are those skill sets? And building a culture of excellence, because we're only picking people that should be on the team, instead of just bringing anyone along for the ride because they've been here for a few years, and they were they were one of the first team members, right? So having that kind of perspective on it is that you're building an all-star team and you only tolerate the best, and which kind of like leads to the next thing is like you get what you tolerate as a founder, as a CEO, as an operator, whatever the label that you want to call yourself is like what you tolerate. So if you tolerate people being late to meetings, they'll be late to meetings. If you tolerate kind of reports half done, the things will get half done, right? So learning not to tolerate shit and putting a line in the sand will give you so much clarity and give you so much perspective on like what shit that actually people is doing and why things are getting like that way. Because again, at the end of the day, as the founder, entrepreneur, business owner, everything is your fault. If things are going well, that's your fault. If things aren't going well, that's also your fault, right? And the best thing you can do is things are going well, is praise others. When things aren't going well, look at yourself. And that's kind of a little bit of a lesson that I have from the teams is going, okay, why aren't things going and like what can I do differently? Now, if you've gotten this far, a lot of the stuff that I've been speaking about has been kind of tactical on like what you can do and things that you can build on, right? Whereas one of the big things I want to share, and it was something that I kind of fell prey to, was like don't build someone else's dream. And right online right now, there's so many people talking about this, that, and everything else. And from my experience and being around a lot of people, living in Dubai, living in Bali, doing a lot of travel, is a lot of people are full of shit. And then second to that is like, you never want to build someone else's dream, right? One of the things that we got stuck with in the gyms, we just wanted more and more and more. And we had a mentor and he ended up having 20 gyms and we're trying to catch him. And then like what we realized in the process that like more gyms wasn't actually going to make us happy and more businesses, everything. You know, we had the cryotherapy business, we had the app, we did the problem, we just added more. And it was kind of to fill the void inside of us, right? So like when you're looking at your business, like actually identify and clarify for yourself what is it that you actually want. And I know now in the business like that I'm building is like, yeah, I love working with kind of high level entrepreneurs in their businesses and helping them grow like consulting business, and I know that I can do that from anywhere in the world. In the last kind of 12 months, been to 14, 15 countries, been able to travel, not had a permanent address, and I'm building this business very deliberately via the choices that I'm making, right? Again, from going from having 7 leases and all of these things and all of these fixed costs, whereas now it's me, my MacBook, and a Wi-Fi connection, and I can literally work anywhere in the world. So again, when you're building your business, don't try to build it and try to build on someone else's dream. Like actually clearly identify, like what is your dream, what is the thing that you actually want, and build your business around that. And some of you watching this, you might go, shit, I'm actually not building the right business for me. So understanding what it is that you're trying to build will give you so much more clarity than the next hack or the next funnel or the webinar or the Instagram funnel or the cold email or anything around that. Like build it what you actually truly desire. So in your heart of hearts, you know you're doing the right thing, and all those things about motivation and concentration and discipline, they'll all fall away because you'll actually have the ability to work on something because it's aligned with you and what you actually want in your core, and it's not some superficial dream that you saw some clown on Instagram tell you about. Now, wrapping this all up, and I think this is kind of the most important, the biggest lesson I can leave you with is around your belief system, right? And if you truly don't believe what it is that you're doing and the outcomes that you want, if you don't believe that you can get there, none of the strategies or tactics will help. And that's one of the things, like I've always seen myself as someone that can go out and get it. And I've gotten the confidence from doing that, from achieving the results, right? So when I was like a personal trainer, my only goal was to make $500 a week. And that was like the goal. I was like, wow, I achieved that. And then it was to make 1,000. And then it was to make 2,000 a week. And then, you know, I did that and I was like, wow, I can actually do that. And then in the gyms, it was like, I believed that we could get there. And like we had the role models, we had the mentors, we had the people that had actually achieved it. And that really helped me believe that it was possible for me. This kind of links back to the start, is like, you should never say you can't do something, right? And don't take that literally, but how I mean by that is if you say, oh, I can't do ads, or I don't understand AI, or I don't understand tech, like your brain's literally shutting off the ability to do that. Whereas you want to be able to say, yeah, I can do anything, and I'm learning to do anything, and like actually open up your mind to be able to achieve the things that you want to achieve. That belief system is basically a compass for your life and get more results than you can imagine. That is my lessons from the last 12 years in business. I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment on which you thought was the most relevant to you. And below this video, there's a video on how we actually build AI growth consultant businesses where we can work anywhere in the world, work with high-level clients, and charge anywhere from $5,000 to $35,000. So if that's of interest, check the link below this video, and I will catch you on the next one.